let's take a break from the war, have a little fun. Now the question is, who's it going to be in 2028, Vance or Rubio? Front page of the Wall Street Journal. Well, welcome back, Marc Thiessen, Fox News contributor, and Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben Ferguson podcast. Gentlemen, this is great fun. Marc Thiessen, I'm going to begin with you. Vance or Rubio? What are you thinking here?
Well, if the election were held today, Rubio, but if the election were held today, voters would be very surprised.
Yes.
The fact is, there's only been one sitting vice president elected in 189 years in this country. That was George H.W. Bush in 1988, and that's because people wanted a third Reagan term. The question is, will people want a third Trump term? I hope so. And would Vance offer a third Trump term? Because even Trump has said he's much less enthusiastic about Iran than he was. So it's not clear. The last guy to do it, by the way, before that was Martin Van Buren in 1836, because people wanted a third Andrew Jackson term. So similarity there, I guess.
Not even I knew Martin Van Buren. Ben Ferguson, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, look, I think right now Marco Rubio is clearly the star of this administration and what's been going on in world affairs. But there's, again, the X factor, right? Who would win today if they went head-to-head? I'll tell you, it's whoever had the endorsement of Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States of America. So ultimately, it's still Trump's decision. He's the kingmaker here. Now, there's also that X factor, right? Like, if you get too close to the sun, can you get burned, right? My guy by the last name of Pence, first name, what was his name? Mike Pence, whatever the hell his name was. We forgot about that VP. And he got too close, and then he tried to become his own man again. It didn't work out for him. So I look at this and I say, hey, Donald Trump's going to ultimately, I think, get to be the kingmaker here if it's anybody close to him in his cabinet or his VP. So he's got a choice he's going to have to make down the road. But it's whoever Trump wants, that's who's probably going to be the front runner if the election was today.
Well, you know, I think it's unlikely that President Trump would make a call. I could be wrong. But, you know, it's interesting. This Wall Street Journal story here, Alex Leary and company, I know Alex, never in a couple thousand words, never mentions the word economy. Never mentions growth, never mentions tax cuts, never mentions supply side Republicans or the Reagan wing. I mean, it's a very odd thing. Which of those candidates would be better for the economy? Or don't we think, Marc Thiessen, the economy is going to be a big issue? Or how about other candidates? I mean, I could think of a supply sider named Ted Cruz who might want to run for president. He did it before back in 2016. He finished second. What do you know, it's an odd thing, Marc Thiessen. That's all I'm saying. 3,000 words. Who's going to get the nomination? And they don't mention the economy. If I had any hair, I'd pull it out.
Well, and we have no idea what the economy will look like in 3 years' time. I mean, it could be booming and great, and people will want another to keep it going. Or we could be struggling because something unforeseen events could happen, you know. So they won't. So it's so early to be making these kinds of predictions. It's a lot of fun, but they're not worth the paper they're written on yet.
Well, Ben Ferguson, which of those two fellows, which one is the more pro-growth? Which one is the more supply side? Which one is the bigger tax cutter?
Yeah, look, I think if you look at this, J.D. Vance is a guy, if you're talking about the economy, it's going to play well to where he's positioned as the vice president. He can say over and over again, we did this, Trump and I. If it's foreign policy, that's going to play to Rubio being Secretary of State. So a lot of the times what you see is that now we're picking candidates based on what issues align with those candidates the best. And that's that 24-hour quick cycle. We're quick to forget people. We're quick to bring in new names. You mentioned Ted Cruz. I mean, he's my co-host of the podcast that I do with him. That's another example of an individual where foreign policy and the economy could work to his advantage. If people are ready for a new, fresh kind of look at things and a face of things, then clearly Ted Cruz is going to be in that conversation. So a lot of this comes down to what is the issue at the moment? What is America dealing with? Is it foreign policy? Is it domestic issues? Is it oil and gas? What is it? Is it still America first and MAGA? Is Trump still a kingmaker? That's why it's so interesting to look at this right now.
Go ahead, Marc Thiessen, make a prediction. You're very good at predicting. Which one will be the nominee?
Well, Well, I will predict that nobody is going to have the charisma of Donald Trump or the group that he has on the party today. The post-Trump era is going to be very different than the Trump era, even if the MAGA movement continues, because Donald Trump is just a unique individual. Now, they both have talents and they both have charisma of their own. But it remains to be seen, and that's as they say on football on Monday Night Football, that's why you play the game. So we'll see what the talents are and how they do it.
Yeah, they're both smart guys. They're both brilliant guys. Ben Ferguson, how come neither of you want Trump to have a third term? Gee whiz.
Now, look,
I haven't heard that.
Look, yeah, hey, you know what? I love anybody that can carry on what Trump has done. I also believe that 2 terms is enough for any president, even if they're amazing. And Ronald Reagan, I loved, but it was time to move on from that. That's what makes America great. As the president would say,
I would have taken a third Reagan term.
The left, by the way, and says he wants 3 terms. I love that.
I would have taken a third Reagan term, but I think Mark is right. Papa Bush was the third Reagan term, even though it may not have turned out that way. Gentlemen, great fun. I appreciate it. Marc Thiessen and Ben Ferguson.